22 people weighing in on our poll. 19 said no, 3 people said yes. 19 people said no, they do not expect the PDP to make any inroads in Trinidad politics in the local government elections. And 3 people said yes. All right, that's our poll this morning.
All right, thank you. Of course, the poll will stay up until tomorrow morning when I give you the final results at a quarter to the hour of 7 o'clock. All right, Paul, you want to introduce our guest?
Well, maybe we could poll our guest too when Paul introduces him. I thought it was Paul on that side of the screen and Paul on that side of the screen for one moment there, you know. It was looking like 2 Pauls I was looking at, you know.
I didn't know when Rhondall Feeles so good looking. Good morning, Rhondall Feeles.
Why we not here in Rhondall?
Since Wendel has suggested, what do you think? Do you think the PDP will make an inroad in Trinidad politics as did it Tobago?
I don't really get into politics too much at all.
You don't get into the politics. You were hand chosen by the Prime Minister's Senate Committee and you don't get into the politics. Rhondall,
that was crazy enough to me as well. I was hand chosen by the past Prime Minister as well. So well, I don't know what
there you go. Well, because when you're in the politics, people see your potential.
I know, but I know.
Good morning, Mr. Rhondall Feeles, who is the president of the Single Fathers Association. So do you think what's new can the PDP will make inroads in Trinidad?
I think it's a difficult thing. I think it's a difficult thing for them. It's a challenge that they're ready to take up. Well, fine. But I think it will be challenging. We're so cultured into 2 directions. And I think unless somebody has that fortitude to break that culture and start to get people looking at governance opposed to governments and alliance, a particular government being formed, anybody's going to have a challenge to make it.
I now see why they're choosing you. I now see why they're choosing you.
I can see why too.
I now see why they're choosing you. You have the language done perfectly.
Governance as opposed to government.
Governance as opposed to government. You have the language done perfectly. Anything wrong, man. I take props for that. Anyway, good morning, Rhondall Feeles. You're here in your capacity as president of the Single Fathers Association. Or has it been changed to Single Parents?
No, it's been changed to Fathers Association.
Fathers Association, the Fathers Association, right. All right, so there's a recent online interview you did with one of your members who had an issue with his child. Just for those who may not have been familiar with it or may not be familiar, just walk us through the gentleman's name and what happened initially.
Yeah, that's Mr. Ramesh Basdew. And what would have happened when Mr. Ramesh Basdew and his past common law wife would have been separated. He would have moved on. She would have moved on. She was actually, there was some infidelity in the relationship, and that's why he had moved out. So what he had done, he had a trip planned, but he had his son in his care. Well, he said he didn't have his son before, but she brought his son because she found out about the beach house line he was going to go to. So, however, he said his son is familiar with his co-workers and his boss and so forth. So he carried the son to the beach house line. So on return, the mother came back to collect the child. The beach house line was a Sunday. She came the Tuesday to collect the child. And she would have seen on his chest some hickey marks, some spots and stuff on him. And she became enraged. Hello?
Hickey marks on whose chest?
The father. The father would have the father would have been the common law's wife ex now. They're not together anymore.
Right.
So
Understood.
She said he's on his chest. She became enraged. She attacked him. He held on to her. She went to the police station, made a report, say he beat her. The police came. They did a little investigation, realized that the allegation wasn't any real allegation after he explained the side it. But later on in the week, she seemed to still be upset with the thought of what she had seen on him. So she started calling him and asking him, how did they get there? Who was with him? Who did he carry to the beach house with him? And he wasn't taking her seriously. He kept ignoring her because he understood that it wasn't her place to ask him these questions anymore. So I think in a bid to get his attention, she did a very inhumane thing by getting her son in front of a camera, having him on a video chat and a video call, and persistently slapping, beating, and choking the child to get the father to tell her who he went to the beach house with. Now, the video which you would have seen would have been 30 seconds, but that persisted for a lot longer than that. He, after continuously calling him and doing that, decided to get one of his co-workers to tape her So the last ordeal we saw for the 30-second 1 minute wasn't the only ordeal that the child had suffered. She continuously slapped the child, choked the child, continuously trying to get the father to tell her who he took to the beach house, trying to get the son. She told her the son told her he carried someone else, and to the grits of the matter, she was upset that he had another woman there.
Why didn't he call the police? Why, if she is allegedly abusing this child on camera,
right,
to elicit a response, why didn't he call the police? Because his child is being abused.
He did it. He did after. He did. But previously, he had a very bad experience with the police just the year before. What he would have done is go to the police. His son would have come home a day from the mother and the stepfather, come home a day and said that the stepfather would have choked him and shown him a cutthroat sign if he told anybody. He then proceeded to the police station. He said the mother would have proceeded there also. And he said by the time he got to the station, I was trying to explain what he was doing there. The mother was done there already, giving them a side of the story. And by the time he got there, the police officer would have told him, sir, it's COVID, take the child and get out of the station.
While I understand that, I still don't understand why, even if you had a bad experience with police and your son told you he was abused and threatened before with a cutthroat sign as you displayed, right, why I would not call the police to protect my child who is being abused again.
Correct. And I agree with you, Paul. But what I realized this man was going through, he's a Guyanese national. And I know many times that he went to go to the police station or threaten to call, he would always say the wife would always hold over his head that she would call immigration office. And if he go in the station, the police will lock him up. And if he go there, so he always went to the station, he admitted to me, with a level of fear, thinking that I would go in the station and me being a non-national, I would be the one arrested.
Is he here illegally?
He's here 18 years and he does not have residency.
Oh, so he has some status issues.
Right, exactly. Something I would have explained to him as well, and something we have already called the senior immigration. Of course, he's here 18 years now. It's about 18 years he's here. He has a 5-year-old son here as well.
Yeah,
so
but
I mean,
status issues stand. I understand his
reluctance. He has his status issues. He's aware that he did start the process, but the guy who was doing it, the lawyer, would have died. So anyhow, he has his status issues. So
where's the child now?
So the child has been now given custody. The father has been given custody. Emergency. We made an emergency application on Friday. The master would have seen that and been in fear of the child being around the mother, and they would have granted interim custody to the father. So the child is in the care of the father, and the father, when he isn't there, leaves the child in care of the maternal grandmother, who's the mother's adopted mother, who the child was placed in the care by the child protection unit when this happened.
So the mother has not been detained at all in this incident, Rhondall?
She was detained. The mother was detained and then released pending investigations. I don't understand what is the nature, what is the need for further investigation. I understand further investigation, but I mean, we have evidence enough to show that the mother was the person who abused the child.
So she has not been charged.
She has not been charged. And that is something we continue to see happen many a time when we have some female perpetrators. They all, for some reason, there's a hesitancy to charge them. So similarly, with her father who was burnt alive and said, boy, it's my lover who had burnt me. A man just the other day. That lady hasn't been charged as well. So there's always some level of hesitancy when we see this perpetrator being female. When we see perpetrators having that female gender, there's a challenge.
Is there another child in the situation?
Come again?
Is there another child? I read somewhere there may have been another child in this situation.
In his situation, Mr. Bazio's situation, there's another child. The mother just had a child about 25, could be about 27 days ago now. She is now saying, she's claiming that the child is his. However, because of the infidelity and because she was back and forth with both parties, he said Mr. Bazio said he cannot guarantee that this child is his, but upon paternity testing, if proven the child is his, he is ready to take up the responsibility.
So the alleged perpetrator, the female, has another child allegedly by Mr. Bazio.
Allegedly.
Is that child still in the woman's care? That baby now?
No, both children were removed. Both children were removed after speaking to the child protection unit head, Superintendent Allen. She had ordered to have both children removed and put in the care of the maternal grandmother.
Has the older child received counseling? Well,
right. The family court, I must give the family court kudos for that. They have already put that in place as well. I know their officers will be going out, their social workers will be going out to provide counseling for the older child.
Now, while I understand your advocacy for equality of treatment, which is basically what you're asking the law to do, to treat everybody equally.
Right.
I also understand the other side of it. This is, I think the elder child is 8 years old.
The
older child is 8 years old.
He's 4 years old.
4 years old. And I could understand, and he's with his paternal grandmother now. Now imagine a 4-year-old doesn't have his mother or his father with him.
Right.
Regularly.
No, but he has custody. The father has custody now since Monday. So he has the father and he has the maternal grandmother now.
Okay.
So the father is, since we got custody awarded, interim custody awarded on Friday, he has.
Rhondall, your mic silence. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
The mic was silence there for a bit.
Yeah, lost it there for a bit. Right. The father now has custody, but with his custody, what he's planning to do is to share care and control. So while he's at work, he will share care and control with the grandmother who will take care of the child. And then when he returns from work, he will collect the child. Normal process that people do.
Normal support system.
So does that mean, yeah, I don't know why Rhondall's mic is silence in itself. But Rhondall, tell me something. He is with the maternal grandmother. Does that mean then that the mother still has liberal access there?
No, the mother has no access to the child in two regards. First, the custodial, the guardian, who is the past guardian, because she's no longer guardian since the issuance of the court order Friday. The mother has been barred from going there to see any of the children. She cannot go to the maternal grandmother's house to see any of the children. One, and two, the older boy has been granted a protection order from the mother. So she has no way that she could come in contact with him. The baby, however, has not been granted that protection. The baby is being protected by the guidance of the Child Protection Unit right now, who's advised the guardian, who is still the maternal grandmother of the baby, that the mother is not to come within possibly 100 meters, 100 feet, however it goes of the child.
So how did all of this advance and a charge has not been laid as yet?
Well, that is something for the Child Protection Unit to answer. I mean, for us to make these significant advancements when it comes to even the family court intervening and making protection orders and making orders of custody on an emergency basis, we're talking about one day, the same day we applied, we were granted. It's very strange to me that, I mean, we're not seeing that level also from the Child Protection Unit that concern. And it's very concerning because whereas I understand the need of having a restorative approach when it comes to the mother, because she may have definitely suffered some level of trauma in her past as well, there must be the penal part as well. We must set an example so that people know that this is not the type of behavior parents must not conduct themselves in this manner when they have children. And unless we set that example to society, it is something that we're going to continue seeing. This is not a scenario where we're wondering if it's borderline corporal punishment. This is a scenario where we're seeing a child is being held ransom for information. And that is a dangerous premise. Very, very dangerous. Dragged before a camera. That's what a kidnapper doesn't know. Drag it before a camera, checking you and all the other person on the other line at ransom so that they do what you ask them. And that, on that premise, is a dangerous premise that went across the entire country. And to date, we're still not showing that, hey, despite your gender, despite your race, or despite how much money you have, once you commit these types of crimes, you will be dealt with.
Well, it's such a sensitive issue. One, I'm not diminishing the seriousness of the charge of this woman's alleged activities, and I'm surprised and concerned that the court saw it serious enough, even on face value. Well, not face value because the evidence is there, the video recording is there, that they could debar the woman with a protection order from seeing a 25-day-old baby, which is really serious because a baby needs that kind of bonding and probably best from the mother. And a 4-year-old who's also emotionally attached to his mother. You understand? So those two children, though they're being protected by the court, are also in a way being, they don't have the comfort of their mother. You understand? Because they need to be protected from in the wisdom of the court. So if the court sees it serious enough to debar her and them deny them that comfort and debar her for their protection. Why haven't charges been laid? Because if it's that serious, you understand?
Yeah.
Correct.
If
And I
it's
agree
really,
with you.
a court has to think it really serious and these children in danger to debar a mother from a 25, 27-year-old baby, 28-year-old baby. Because
Correct.
that baby, you know how 4-year-olds and babies are with their mothers in particular.
Correct.
But
So it has to
thankfully,
be very serious.
but Paul and Rhondall, thankfully in this instance, the court, it did not wait on the police to do something. They went ahead and did something in the best interest of the children.
But the court has a responsibility to do that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kudos to the court for that. And that is their job towards in the best interest of the child. So disregarding all the things that I mean, as Paul rightfully said, the bonds and the connectivity and all these things, they saw the danger. Because you don't want, God forbid, this baby, something happening to this baby because this happened. You understand? So they had to remove both children out of the care. And I am hoping that the Child Protection Unit acts upon this. Not only acts, as I said, with some kind of penal redress alone, penalizing alone, but something restorative as well. And this is how we must deal with all these cases, not only because it is a woman in this case, but also when it is men making these kind of mistakes as well. Yes, bring in the penal arm that we are always ready to bring in when it's men, and then we never bring in the restorative part. And I think this may be the opportune time because people are more empathetic, because society is more empathetic towards females. This is the opportune time to show the perfect model of how we can deal with it, penalize, but then bring a restorative part or element of it as well.
To be fair, to your knowledge, has the mother been assigned to a psychiatric evaluation and or counseling or some sort of debriefing psychologically from a professional so that she can work through her issues? Because part of the issue is not always, the best outcome is not always charging and jailing somebody. Let me put it that way. And that is not to diminish the court's responsibility or the police responsibility in charging somebody who has committed a crime against a child or anybody. But sometimes I know the court's approach or the police approach is what they think is in the overall interest of all involved.
Paul, Rhondall, let me weigh in here. You know what's unfortunate about, and I agree with you of the scenario that I just painted, but you know what is unfortunate about that? If the roles were reversed, we wouldn't be talking about intervention here. We would be talking jail. We'd be talking lockup charge. That's the unfortunate part about that, the reality that
yes, but the reality of it also is that in the human construct, and I'm not diminishing at all a woman or a female's responsibility to uphold the law and not abuse children. But when the court looks at the whole scenario, and I'm just presuming here, they look at and the overall benefit to all, and that may be debar the woman now, make an assessment as to whether the charges should be laid or not, or whether it is better served to have her counseled so that she can be reunited with the children, because a 27-year-old is not the same for a mother and a father in terms of that connection and that need. And I'm not diminishing the role of a father by any means. I'm just talking about what we know of the human condition.
But you know, Paul, I'm going to disagree with that part. Because in my part, I believe both parents are equal.
I agree.
Right. So even prenatal and postnatal, I believe they hold similar significance. But I agree to you to an extent where it must not only have a penal form of redress, there must be restorative. But I also agree with my other brother there that it must serve both genders. We must not only have empathy when the perpetrator is female, and not feel the same level of empathy or willingness to help when the perpetrator is male.
Those things can be right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because the same consideration should be given to men depending on the particular circumstance.
Yeah. Imagine a video of a father slapping up a child, trying to get information from that child.
He'd be locked up.
Jail one time.
Jail one time. Police and jail one time. And you're
I mean,
to send a message that may have been the right thing to do also, to send a message that it would not be tolerated from either gender.
Yeah.
Correct. So sending the message is one, and also showing the new element as well. And making a statement, because they have to admit as well from the CPU, from the court, from wherever, that we have been conditioned to treat things a certain way.
He froze.
Yeah, he now frozen.
I don't know if it's a bandwidth or a connection.
He might be having internet issues there. He could take, if he want, he could take off his camera and we could.
And regardless of the gender, we are ready now to get that restorative part, look into the perpetrator. Why have they become a perpetrator? Was she abused in her childhood? These things, because look at this young man, guys. He is male and he's been abused by this, like this by a woman. If this isn't corrected at this point and he becomes an abuser, when we look into his history, we will say, but the boy was abused. And that is where the problem is. He may hate women if this isn't corrected.
Yes, so you're absolutely right.
Root cause lies, and we have to address it.
Is there also a restraining order from her against contacting him? The father, that is, no.
Yes, the father. The mother also has a restraining order from the father as well. Protection order from the, she can't interact with the father or the older son or the older child. And she has been barred by CPU from going to the home with the younger child. And I strongly believe by the next hearing that the judge, I'm certain, may put a restraining order against her pertaining to the baby as well.
And imagine all of this, and these children are still with her mother.
His mother.
No, the son is primarily with the father, but he shares with her mother while he goes to work and stuff since he's been granted custody now. But the baby is primarily in the care of the grandmother. Because if the husband isn't going to apply until he's certain the child is.
And this is her mother you're talking about?
Yes, but it's her adopted mother. It seems that she isn't in contact with her mother. This is the lady who raised her. It's her aunt, actually, I believe.
Okay.
And the aunt knows that she's to have no contact, of course, with the children.
Yes, of course, of course. The aunt has been guided by the...
What does the father want out of all of this, Rhondall?
I mean, he just wants the safety of his child. You know? That is the main thing. And even and children, if the younger one is his. Because, I mean, despite whatever happened, I didn't see that he has any... He was angry, yes. But in his mind, he's just concerned more so about the safety of the child, this child being kept with him so that the child can be safe. He has no issue for whatever reason. He continues to emphasize that the maternal grandmother is a very safe, a very nice and amicable person, and he has no challenge with the children being in her care at all. So I can understand that he isn't on a vendetta against the mother per se. He just doesn't trust having the child in her care at all.
But he's doing what he's supposed to do by law, which is protect the child. Because if he did not report it, that's also a breach of the law. Because if an adult by law knows a child is being abused, you are duty bound legally to report it.
Correct. And I instructed him similarly. I said, if you didn't make that video or you didn't report, you would have been culpable as well. So I think the reason for him doing that video, he said it was to him hurtful to see it circulated. But he wanted somebody to believe him. And in his fear of having to go to the station all these times that are non-national and illegally here, he thought he needed something to prove that, hey, I'm not being untruthful. This is what my son is going through.
Because in the absence of the video, she might have said he's lying.
Correct. So he had to do.
In terms of the 4-year-old who probably can speak now, I don't know if you know, is he asking for his mom?
He isn't speaking at all. He's only started to speak. I spoke to the head of CPU and they were trying to speak with him, counsel him, and he was mute after the experience, not saying anything, not responding to anyone. As Dad did say when I spoke to his dad, that since he's been home, he's been cheerful and communicating with his father as normal. But before that, the advice I would have gotten from the CPU is that the child wasn't speaking to anybody. The child was more or less mute after the entire thing. So it seems that was actually a good move of restoring him back to the father where he possibly feels safe for some reason. Well, not for some reason. We know why he feels safe. He knows his father, where he's now communicating again. So I'm very glad to hear the family court jump on this call with the social work. And one thing I want to really strengthen, the family court is trying to introduce a family court process throughout Trinidad and Tobago, whereas domestic issues and domestic matters, and I fully support them. I know that they may need more staffing, I know they may need more finance and these things, and I'm hoping that the authorities and the government really support them. They've now taken up the Shagona spot under the family court in Port of Spain, and I know they want to, and that was one of the reasons, Paul, we were able to get this emergency hearing before master so quickly, because it was under the remit of the family court. Now, if that was just Shoguna's court, I can't tell you we'd have gotten in front of magistrate in due time.
I will tell you also, because I think your organization and yourself have enough credibility now that you've been advocating. It's not necessarily a father's thing alone, but it's a protection of rights thing. So I think the court now recognizes that when you call, they will give you a hearing, which is a good thing, because, I mean, you built your credibility. We will need to take some calls, Rhondall, because I know the audience generally likes to weigh in on these things because there's so much happening in society these days. So the numbers are, Steve. You're not going to never remember them.
Yeah, I know that. 222-8255, 612-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099.
How wide is your membership now, the Fathers Association, Rhondall?
I'm a first bit back.
How large is your membership now, the Fathers Association?
Yeah, but for what we've done, we've actually restructured. We haven't, at first we had a lot of guys on paper. We still have a lot of guys on paper. But what we realized we've been most successful at doing is helping the general public. So we've created like an executive and an outreach arm of about 15 guys, and an executive of about 5. So within that 20, and then the public, when they come for assistance, we try to assist them that way. The advocacy in those days are writing 100 like a trade union might be able to do it and get 100 and 2,000 to come out. When they want to advocate, it's very different when it comes to doing this level of advocacy. It's more like a hospital. You're sick, you come for help. We try to help you. We put general advocacy out there where we try to get reform in policy and legislation, and we try to train people so that when they go out, they can help other people out there. But that whole approach of just having people on paper, guys come get help and leave.
What has your membership been telling you about the circumstances that were created with the pandemic? You've seen people have to confront their issues in their relationships with each other and their children, and I'm sure your membership would have had some stories to tell you.
Yeah. It worked. I would say it served as beneficial to some extent, because many guys who would have been getting a limited access because of the flexibility of their jobs and the mothers possibly being essential workers, nurses and stuff, having to go out. There had to be a balance struck when it comes to care and control. So many parents during this pandemic period shelved their court orders and continue to shelve it after now, because they realize, why was I stopping him from seeing the child if he was able to do all these things, see through online school when I had to work during the week, all these things. So it has created, in some instances, opportunity for those who show that level of maturity to now forge co-parental relationships, whereas on the other side, they have some both mothers and fathers who may be custodial parents, that because the COVID was there, they use it as an extra excuse to continue to parentally alienate the other parent. And that's why I say, Paul, I try to remove gender now, even in my advocacy when it comes to custody, because now I realize it's a power dynamic. It's the custodial parent versus the non-custodial parent. Whoever has custody, if they aren't mature, sensible, or understanding that the child needs both parents, they will parentally alienate that child from the other parent, regardless of the gender. And that is where we need to look.
All right, gentlemen, we do have a call, so I want to grab this call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. How are you going? Wendel,
good
morning.
Go ahead. Morning.
Wendel, I want to ask a question. Do you have a phone number where you could call if you see children getting abused?
Well, we have a general outreach number for Single Fathers Association, or you can go to the Facebook page and reach out to us there. One of the numbers off the head is 354-6991. That's a WhatsApp contact that you have us. The other one, I don't have it off my head right now, but it's a fairly new number that we have on.
Right, and another issue, I want to be blunt and factual about this matter. Why there so many East Indian people committing suicide and killing their spouse? What is the issue with that? Because I realize I'm observing it for the past month. Yeah. Man, I'm reading about this issue with this lady and her husband and another woman, and I'm reading that one with the two husband and wife killed themselves. I'm reading about the next one who chop up that one for land. What is going on with the Indian community?
Well, domestic violence is across the board.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
some issues in a particular community, and I think that conversation needs to be a very sensitive conversation,
Correct.
so that it doesn't go into the direction of castigating one particular community, and it may be more productive to be a wider conversation on domestic violence and the causes generally. But I hear you, Mr. Patrick.
You see, Paul, and this is exactly why what I'm saying. When we advocate towards gender, advocate towards race, advocate towards the those who have money and those who don't, socioeconomic standing. This is the understanding that society has. But really and truly, it's all based on anybody's environment. The environment is what causes this type of behavior. You put no matter what race you are in, no matter how much money you have, in a particular environment where violence may be condoned, or where disrespect is condoned, or where mothers and fathers don't have a relationship where they could communicate, or where there's a lack of emotional intelligence. And this is going to happen. So at the end of the day, this is exactly why I do not support when we advocate, there's this divisive manner of men this way, women this way, East Indians this way, Africans this way, rich 1% this way, 99% the next way. And that's what would happen. So I take his point, but as I'm strengthening that point to say, any environment, because I see it amongst many races, that those even of other races make similar threats. Boy, if something don't happen, I will do X, Y, Z. And they possibly believe they're making idle threats. But the greater problem is this, Paul, and solution to this problem that will serve every race, that will serve every gender, both genders, and will serve all economic standards if we have things in the community, restorative and de-stressive solutions in our communal spaces. People don't have those things. We are not investing in our human resource, our family space, where a man is frustrated or a woman is frustrated and she could walk right into the office, into offices and get some assistance right in the community center, right in our communal space. People who are trained that could truly assist them and non-biased as well, because that's another important element. There are places like mediation centers, Paul, in many communities, but the fact that it's poorly advertised, nobody knows they're there. So people don't even know there's a place you could go in your community space to have disagreements settled, even if it's for land, if it's for whatever problems they see amongst family members who fighting for land, who fighting for whatever. There are these spaces there, but because they are poorly advertised and they most likely are well understaffed and they have no resources. This is why people don't know that these places are within that space. And if we put these places in spaces, I'm guaranteeing you people are going to utilize it. Once they advertise it, it's be.
It has to be an ongoing advocacy thing.
Yeah. We're still taking your calls, 222-8255 and 612-8255. Toll free North America, 866-525-1099.
So what's on the horizon for the association?
Well, that's it, Paul. This year, we're really looking at, we saw there's a new Attorney General. I know we have the Attorney General. Numerous on some of the things that would have come out, some of the recommendations that would have come out to the Joint Select Committee from since 2018, things like paternity leave, things like increasing the non-custodial access. Non-custodial access is still at 4 days a month. You understand? These kind of things, having these things addressed, are dealing with issues where we want paternity testing upon application for maintenance. These are issues where a number of people are maintaining children, going to prison, some of them, and the children aren't even theirs as well. So a number of these issues that are pertinent, that are equitable, and that are fair, we are going to start to raise.
What is the issue with paternity testing? What's the main challenge with paternity testing?
There's no challenge, and it's become quite affordable these days as well. It's not in the old days when you're paying $3,000 and $4,000. Some persons do it as cheap as $1,000 and $1,200, and people can't afford it these days. It's just that it isn't enshrined anywhere that it must be done before, and there's still presumptions in the law. There are presumptions that a father is a father once he's the husband of the mother. Yeah, once he's the husband of the mother. And to me, in this day and age, that's a. So in other words, seeing that he's the common law father, he may be well taken as though he's already presumed the father of this newborn child, and it may not be his child. I've seen instances where fathers who are actually what we call colloquially the honor man, and he decided that he wanted to be involved in his child life, even though the mother and father may have reunited, and he goes and do a paternity test, and he means he must be involved. And I mean, why I can't say he should not be involved, because he is the paternal parent.
Yeah. We have a call here, gentlemen, so let's grab this one. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Feeles, I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing. I think you're starting to get breakthrough, and for a long time it was an uphill battle. I personally have been, I'm divorced now, and that's about 11 years now. But I remember 13 years ago going to the police station to make a report about being hit with an object, and the police telling me, "Hey, yeah, man, where you come here for? Get out from the station." And it's so unjust. Situations of when my children were younger, not seeing them for 3 and 4 months at a time because their mother had a disagreement with me. It even reached a stage where 6 months I didn't see my children, and it felt like there's no redress. And I think we need that one-sided gender bias to change, and then a lot of things will come out of the woodwork.
So, you mind me asking, do you think that because of the way society has evolved, people underestimate how painful it is for a father not to see his child for 6 months?
It is. It's very painful, because you, at some point, you feel that you are only important for a paycheck to pay. Like I always say, the man has to pay 50% of all expenses, and in some cases more, but gets less than 5% of the child's time. I went to joint custody. A judge order. This was the court order that I only see my children on a Sunday between 10 and 6. 10 and 6, when you check up for the year, is less than 3 weeks for a year. But I must pay half of everything. Whether it's karate lessons, and some of these things, some people just bring up these expenses, and the children don't go to the event, and it's just like a punishment.
Yeah,
but you're right. When you put it like that, it's unfair that you're holding up your responsibility to parent this child half, but you're only getting to see the child 1/7 of the week. And
if I chime in a bit there, think about the same karate classes. There's a championship, or the cricket classes you're paying for, but you can't be there, or you can't be a structured part of the development of that skill. The child will even remember you there. And that is the thing, that emotional bonding. And then on the flip side, they come after and tell men who are not before the court, step up and be involved. But the ones that come to the court for access, you yourself in authority are giving them that kind of access. Then you're not sending the same message. If you want that restorative approach, and I can't say no, that after the badgering, I would say, we've put on the family court, we're actually seeing it now coming into being, where they're understanding that fathers do want to be involved. And I want to show why fathers are involved, all historically. It is because we are the generation of men that grew up without our fathers, whether they were withheld by a court order, or whether because traditionally they were just the breadwinners, come home, work, when they don't work, come home, sleep, and they had no time to deal with giving that emotional connection with each child, bonding with each child. So we are the boys who were disconnected to our fathers, whether they were in the house or not, who always had a desire to be a better father. And now this desire has caused men to want access more than just being given financial representation. And if they're not given the support by the courts, and they're not given the support by society, in a midst of them paying retribution for the past fathers who didn't care, then we revolving this, we keeping the cycle going. Yeah. It's time to break this cycle and allow men who want to be involved, to be meaningfully involved, to be involved.
Well, just one thing. Also, I do think people inside the household, because my son now lives with me, because he's over 20. And only when we talking, we talk. My ex-wife and I have a good relationship now, and he was told for a long time that you're gonna be like your father, and it having the tone of being negative. And this has been happening. If it can happen to my son, it could happen to other people's children.
It does.
Yeah, the other side of it too is we're talking about, and father's right is important, but people
that's
don't
more
realize
widespread than they think.
Yeah. People don't realize that you're also robbing the child of the experience.
Correct.
And I remember a Christmas morning crying because we had agreed for half of the whole Christmas and half Boxing Day, and being called 6:45 and say, I don't feel like coming to drop the children. So I said, well, okay, I will come. No, I don't want you in my street. I will call the police if I see your car in my street. And I'm helpless because if anything, if the way our society was back then, it might be improved now. Once a woman made a call to the police, you go into jail.
And then people realize, yes, it's hurtful to you. I mean, maybe that was the intention, but it's also hurtful to the children.
Correct. It's abusive, Paul. That's the word we need to use. There's a reason that you can still remember it. And there's a reason when you speak to children, they remember the time daddy tried to come to get me and mommy didn't let me go and daddy had to go for police. Every single child who's gone through that, they will tell you every single experience because it emotionally impacted them. And that is emotionally abusive. And that is a form of domestic violence in the Act of Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago that they say that they must counteract. So at the end of the day, to efficiently do so, and I said, we've been having serious talks with the family court where they are now even considering making parents who are unwilling to co-parent a risk to the child. Just as an abusive parent, just as a parent who abuses drugs and they are deemed as risks to children, parents who show all reluctance to co-parent and have the other parent involved, whether you're the custodial parent or not, they are starting to look at these people as risks to the well-being of the child.
Thank you for sharing, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes. Rhondall, thank you so much for being on Power Breakfast Show this morning.
Thank you for having
Thanks a
me.
lot.
I appreciate the time you took. All the
How
best
did
to you.
it-
And one more time before you go, Rhondall, the telephone number and Facebook page.
354-6991, or you go to the Single Fathers Association Facebook page. All the numbers come up when you send a message. All the numbers will come up and I reply automated message to you.
Well, thank God we've been recording because I completely forget to press record.
Okay.
Rhondall, you sell out all your old stock that you were advertising recently?
We still have some of them there, but what I'm gonna do.
All right, great.
All right, Rhondall, thanks a lot, man. Be safe.
Thank you. All the best to you.
All right, you
All
too.
right. All right, great. All right, let's get into our news brief. Evies and Hill Bab is in a news brief, all powered by Champlain Auto Services.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Head of the Fathers Association, Rhondall Feeles, says that the recent video showing the abuse of a young boy by his mother, who did so allegedly because she was upset with his father,